This set of shelves is directly below the children's bedroom. So I'm not going to film there because every time I have filmed a video in said location, I have awoken a child of some description. So I'm going to awkwardly transport this to a new location. Ta-da! This is a little bit more comfortable for me, sat in a nice couch. Got shit around me. This is living, man. Just need to hope we don't wake up a child now. I'm not directly underneath their bedroom anymore. You know what, everyone's fucking coat hangers. So we of course looked at Destroy All Humans 2 last time, which was just everything I wanted from a Destroy All Humans game. It was really open, free, it let you set your own pace and determine your own strategies to get through missions. It introduced a lot of new and welcome changes into the series, which have thankfully been carried on to the next game. Now, I'm not expecting mind-blowing feats of game design from a game that sells itself entirely from having an innuendo right in the fucking title, but I'm going in with an open mind. Might not be a bag of shit. So, Pandemic are gone, and developing this game we have instead Locomotive Games, who have made literally nothing I've ever heard of. The game was released in early 2008 exclusively for the Wii, so of course we have a huge change in control scheme with the introduction of motion controls. Interestingly, Big Willy wasn't initially intended to be a Wii exclusive release, with a PS2 and PSP version planned as well. But with budget constraints and trouble translating the controls over from the Wii version, these were eventually just scrapped. It received a fairly average reception from critics upon release. I mean, it does have big shoes to fill here, and it will be very different with the control scheme, so I think we need to take this game with a pinch of salt. So the game opens up with a cutscene. Crypto, what did they do to you, buddy? And Pox. Oh, Pox.
You're a hologram. You look like crap.
What happened here? This game looks bloody horrendous. I mean, you can argue it's a Wii game, they don't necessarily always look that great, but do you know what also came out in the same year, on the same system? No More Heroes. And look at it, it looks incredible for the hardware. Brilliant facial animations and gestures, and then there's this pile of cess. There's not even any mouth animations, you just see them from behind if they're talking, and Pox doesn't even fucking move. NPCs are embarrassing, there's hardly any defining features. There's points where this could genuinely pass as a PS1 game. And there's this bit where the guy gets into the truck, but instead of opening the door, he just fades out of existence, and then reappears behind the wheel! Like, I don't want to harp on about something that in the grand scheme of things is quite irrelevant. I've played plenty of bad looking games in my time and still enjoyed them plenty. But this just had me shook. I just sat mouth agape for a solid 5 minutes when I started this up. Well, to be totally honest, it wasn't just the graphics. We have bad voice acting too. Well, the delivery of the lines isn't the worst thing I've heard. John Albrecht and Richard Horvitz have been replaced by, I don't know, I didn't even bother to look it up. But it sounds like a bad impression of Crypto hanging out with Stewie Griffin.
Hey, they stole my move.
More educational programming, Crypto.
So I'm just gonna get into the story straight away, so spoilers, I guess, but who gives a shit, because I certainly didn't. We're in the mid-70s this time with a variety of Crypto. Like, he acts like 138 with reference to his package and Natalia and the fact he just wants to bang everything, but he's referred to as 137? So check your lore, game, you're gonna piss me off. Pox has opened a chain of fast food restaurants called Big Willy. Outside each restaurant stands a big ass statue of the titular Large William. The restaurant serves as a cover for Pox to dispose of the human corpses Crypto has created from harvesting the brain stems for Furon DNA. The bodies are ground up and served in hot dog form because of course it's hot dogs! The rest of the story boils down to irrelevant fluff as it's, oh, someone's opposing the restaurant, let's get rid of them, whether it be activists or the rival chain headed by Colonel Cluckin. There's even a whole level called Fantasy Atoll which legit serves as pointless filler plot-wise. It literally is just here to introduce opposition to Crypto. I mean, yeah, this guy does tell us where Cluckin is, but it's like a whole level with a boss battle, and it just boils down to this one line of dialogue which progresses the main plot. But I mean, there's a lot of games I've played that have irrelevant stories that still manage to be engrossing, but the writing that goes along with it is some of the most childish, insipid attempts of comedy, and it hurts my soul.
It sounds weird to criticize a Destroy All Humans game for having unsubtle humour, but here it is relentless, annoying, and just not funny. Like, I had a little titter to myself the first time Pox referred to the restaurant as my Big Willy, but then he said it again, and again, and again, and didn't shut the fuck up to the point where if he said it one more time, I was gonna punch him in his big fucking willy. And ha ha ha, look, it's so annoying when Pox says it, so Crypto tells him to shut up. Ha ha, so funny, so self-referential, so smart. No, just because you acknowledge it's annoying doesn't stop it from being annoying. Like the last game wasn't subtle. I mean, just look at the name of this jetpack upgrade. But this makes sense. The innuendo is a clever play on words. But here, there's a pirate-themed area called Dead Man's Crotch, because crotches are funny!
Right, I've had my moan about that, so let's just look at the gameplay.
Mission structure is kind of set out really similar to the previous game, with your next objective marked on your radar, as well as any available side missions to complete. But the radar no longer shows landmarks, and there's no map screen, so you just travel waypoint to waypoint without much thought. But we of course need to get used to the new control scheme in order to play these missions. The controls have obviously been adapted to fit the Wii's motion controls into it. With Crypto on the ground, you use the Wii remote to aim the cursor and control the camera. I always found it intuitive to be able to use the Wii remote as a cursor. On-rail shooters always work really well on the system for this reason. But I would probably liken Big Willy's controls to those of Silent Hill Shattered Memories. I initially found the camera and cursor really slow, but you can change the sensitivity to better suit your playstyle. The cursor got stuck a couple of times on the side of the screen, but I didn't really encounter any major issues with it. It was a good decision to have the camera this way. Using Crypto's weapons is actually surprisingly fun. It just feels natural to point and shoot, especially with the B button being an actual trigger button. The 4 series staple weapons return with a few new weapons joining too. The ball lightning shoots a ball of lightning. It's good for pinning a big group of enemies in place when you have an endurance style mission. Yep, I think I actually like this one. The zombie gun on the other hand, I'm finding it hard to see the point of it. It turns people into zombies. Great! I remember back in the day the huge zombie trend, when zombies were so in, and this really feels like it's such a product of the time as it's jumped on the thing that was hit. Apart from the missions where I had to use it, I didn't, because it was pointless. The rest of Crypto's controls have been somewhat simplified as he has less abilities, but it's not very pick up and play. Like you have to hold A to open a menu to access body snatching, hypnotizing, and transmogrifying to create ammo, but hold A and B for psychokinesis. It's a tiny bit on the complicated side. Like, it's not horrible, but the actual controller itself is probably where the issue lies here. I don't think they could have mapped the controls for Crypto any different without further reducing his abilities. The saucer returns too, also in a slightly simplified form. You can't transmog vehicles for ammo as all your weapons recharge now, but the drain function does return from the last game to charge up your health, so that's a really welcome change. But man, oh man, the saucer can fuck right off. Like, the theme of this review so far is this is a simplified Destroy All Humans game, but for some reason they've decided to keep the altitude changingness of the saucer, and they've mapped it to the fucking motion control, whilst at the same time having the camera controlled by the motion control, so you end up doing both things at the same time naturally. The altitude control just straight up doesn't work right sometimes, and sometimes there's a delay on it if you're quickly changing altitude. The altitude is controlled by tilting the Wii remote up or down, but like directly up and down. No one's wrist moves this way naturally. This shit hurt, man. The Big Willy game gave me a sore wrist. Ah, for fuck's sake. And if you hold it more naturally, then the camera just starts going apeshit, because tilting the Wii remote horizontally controls it. They should have just had it control like the Destroy All Humans 1 saucer and made the height non-adjustable. To be honest, I'm making this out like a lot worse than it actually is. Like, it felt really fucking strange at first, but after some time I did adapt to its weirdness, but it still didn't make it any more comfortable though. And every time I had a saucer mission, my heart would just sink a little tiny bit and crush my soul. And man, there is a lot of emphasis on the saucer this time. Very Destroy All Humans 1 mission structures, all about destroying a lot of buildings. But there's also fetch quests using an abduction ray that sometimes isn't responsive, boss battles, endurance rounds which are cheap as fuck, but because the speed of the saucer is so slow, it's really hard to avoid projectiles or keep up with objectives, and fetch quests just become a mindless slog from one waypoint to another trying not to fall a fucking sleep. But this game's gimmick is the giant robot mascot Big Willy. From time to time, Crypto will take control of this mech for various missions, and it's just a pointless waste of time. There is no need for it to be here other than being able to say they unleashed the Big Willy and justify the title. It controls kind of similar to the Saucer, but on the ground. It even has a similar weapon to the Saucer's death ray with its heat vision. I hate controlling this shit too. Like when you're moving around, you tilt the Wii remote on the horizontal axis to control the camera like the Saucer, but the viewing controls change to more like Crypto's controls when using the heat vision. So why not just have Big Willy control like Crypto in the first place? It's so disorienting when the view just flips around and the cursor doesn't even match up with the beam half the time too. When I was getting used to this, I'm embarrassed to admit this, I don't even know why I'm admitting this, but it was actually giving me a lot of motion sickness controlling the Saucer and Big Willy because of the crazy camera. Like, I couldn't actually play this game for more than half an hour without feeling really ill. I solved it by sitting on my kid's Wii table, sitting like directly in front of the TV like an absolutely pathetic specimen of humanity. So, Big Willy also has other weapons. And they're just vulgar for the sake of being vulgar. Like he pukes and farts because, farts are funny! He has a continuously depleting health bar as well, but it can be charged up by eating humans, I guess, I don't know. And if it fully depletes, Crypto is kicked out and needs to use a Zap-O-Matic to recharge his batteries before jumping back in. But like, what is the point of him? Why can I not take down this tank, or this robot, or anything I have fought with the Saucer? The Saucer is right there! It was already kitted out with everything we need. Why did Pox need to develop a robot as well? Literally only so he could call it Big Willy and make crap jokes about it. But I've played crappy looking games with janky controls and I've enjoyed them because it was backed up with really engrossing and rewarding gameplay. And I could forgive everything if this game wasn't just boring as fuck. It is mindless, so goddamn mindless. It's like, go over here, body snatch this exact human, take them to this exact place, kill these exact people with this exact weapon. Like, there is no room for creativity from the player. You can't decide a strategy, you just do as you're told. And the objectives are repetitive, like, within the missions. Like this fetch quest where you have to retrieve not one rock from the volcano, but 3! Then 2 lots of pirate treasure from Dead Man's Crotch. Ha ha ha! Crotch! And this is far away. And you have to go there twice. But yeah, this game is crazy short. It'll be over before you know it. There's only 4 levels, which are fairly small. I mean, if the game wasn't artificially lengthened with this sort of repetition as well as cheap combat, I swear it would be half the length. As it is though, it took me just over 7 hours to complete all the side and story missions. I guess I'll give it credit that the game does have side quests rather than mini games, which sometimes try to expand on the lore. Like this series of side missions that introduce this weird looking kid that keeps trying to steal Crypto's kills or some shit, I don't know. But anyway, Pox and Crypto lure him out to kill him, but then Natalia from the last game phones up being like, "No, Crypto, he's your son!" And yeah, that's that. And some of the main missions weren't all that bad. I like the concept of the mission where you had to ring customer support because Pox's hologram unit had been damaged. Just seeing it blue screen was funny, it's just like something I'd never thought about. But this side mission called Village Humans was just like the epitome of everything wrong with this game. Pox wants to make a band or dance troupe or something because disco is in, and it's the 70s apparently, I'd honestly completely forgot that. And we end up making a satire and create a group in the vein of the Village People. But this could have been such an open mission, like, why not leave it up to the player to decide how to get a human over by either body snatching, PK or abduction, or what order to get them in? Like, how about when you need to kidnap the army bloke, you need to lure out the army by raising your awareness? Creativity in Big Willy Unleashed? Ha ha ha! No! Of course you are forced to use the saucer and one by one, in a specific order, abduct the exact human the game wants you to abduct. And then the altitude controls on the saucer are such fucking splat that I kept killing the humans by dropping them from too great a height because I didn't realise I wasn't at the lowest altitude. There's just no thought in completing this mission, it's just a mindless, boring slog whilst fighting with the saucer's crappy motion controls. In general, missions just become really boring when you're just following waypoints with nothing happening in between. I mean, it is broken up sometimes with Pox and Crypto chatting, like some sort of attempt of character development is done here. I can kind of maybe liken it to the conversations York has with Zack in the car in Deadly Premonition, but that is a real fucking stretch. We have collectibles in this game as well, of course. Last time we had Furotech cells, here we have energy cells, which function almost exactly the same. But with no map screen, it's hard to determine where you've been and where to look. Yeah, I couldn't be bothered finding all of these. Human DNA can be harvested too as like another form of currency. Well, I say currency. The upgrading system is a little strange. Like, you don't save up your energy cells and DNA and spend them freely. You instead collect them and hit milestones. Like, if something needs 100 DNA to unlock, it will unlock after reaching 100 but not reduce your total DNA that you have, if that makes sense. It's both good and bad. It's a lot more convenient as upgrades will automatically unlock when a milestone is reached, so you don't have to travel back and forth to the saucer to upgrade, but it's grindy as fuck. Like, a lot of the weapon upgrades require you to hit a certain number of kills as well as collecting DNA and energy cells. Like, who can be bothered, man? I barely noticed any difference when upgrading and it all just feels so unnecessary. Like, when I got to the final boss fight and saw it was in Big Willy, I did get a little anxiety as I'd rarely used Big Willy, so hardly generated any kills, never mind upgrading him at all. But I beat the final boss with 0 issue, so that's how shallow the upgrading is. It also would have been nice to decide how to spend the collected energy cells and DNA. It could have added a layer of strategy in how to spend them, like focusing on specific weapons or abilities that I'd use more or something rather than having hardly any input at all. I was just hitting milestones and upgrading by accident all of the time. So endgame wise, we find out Cluckin is also grinding up dead humans to make into food, but they are given to him legitimately as they are the dead from the current Vietnam War, and he's all like, let's team up! And Crypto's like, no, because you're destroying their brain stems, I need them! So Cluckin gets in a robot or some shit, so we get in Big Willy to kill him. It's not that interesting or difficult. I'm not sure you can actually die here. Like, I'd be kicked out of Big Willy when his batteries died and be one hit killed by Cluckin's robot, but then we just moved to another cordoned off area in the Vietnam level. I don't know if there's like a finite amount of arenas or something, but if there was, I certainly didn't reach that. I mean, this was probably the best boss battle in the game, but that's not saying much when the others were borderline insipid. The hate ship was particularly bad. It was real cheap. Too many things shooting at you, too hard to keep up because the sorcerer's so slow, too hard to be precise because the controls are crap. I've digressed a little. Cluckin dies and Pox now has no opposition to his fast food empire, but he decides right now to call it quits from the fast food industry. Are you fucking shitting me? I just went through all of that for you just to say, actually, nah, oh, go fuck yourself, Pox, you irrelevant projection of light. So off we go with a pile of money to do whatever. I genuinely don't care at this point. I mean, the final cutscene looks alright graphically, making me wonder why the rest of the game couldn't have looked like this. You can go back and finish off anything you missed from here too, if you really just couldn't get enough of this. You unlock a new weapon here, but you can only activate it from the cheat menu for some reason. Oh yeah, the cheat menu. I'm not sure how you unlock them, but here you can change the outfit Crypto wears and other cosmetic stuff, but you can also activate weird shit like body snatching animals and everyone turning into a zombie for some reason. For the final weapon you unlock from here is a shrink ray. I mean, it's pretty funny all things considered, but there's no point of it in the grand scheme of things.
There's also this glowy yellow area that unlocks in each level after you finish the game. Standing in them summons a bunch of Furons into the level to help fight enemies. Okay, seeing like 6 Cryptos running around is pretty cool. There's a multiplayer option again, but unlike last time, there's no option to play the whole game cooperatively. Instead, you get 4 unique multiplayer missions, 2 cooperative and 2 competitive. The cooperative missions see you and a friend either defend a Big Willy restaurant or destroy a Colonel Cluckin restaurant. The defend mission was harder and really highlighted the time it takes to really get a feel for these controls as we kept failing. Or I was absolutely carrying the team because I picked a useless twat to play the game with. But both were finished in no time at all, and it ends with no fanfare, just you've completed the mission and you're booted back to the home screen. The competitive missions are both the same. The crypto that touches the most beacons wins. The area is just like a cordoned off section of a level, literally like a tiny corner of the level with invisible walls so you can't travel further. It's not great. After playing the 2 maps, we had no urge to try it again. We'd pretty much seen it all in those 2 levels. I'm also pretty disappointed that the 2 competitive missions are the same. I was expecting some sort of duel like in the last game or something. I mean, you can shoot each other, but it's not the goal. Multiplayer ended up being a 15 to 20 minute distraction. It's pretty pointless. Don't bother.
This is not a good game. This is not a good game. It's so bland. It's virtually pointless. Do you know what it boils down to? The title. Dick joke. Dick joke the game, and it's not a very good dick joke at that. You know the worst bit. This isn't even considered the worst game in the series. Like, what the fuck happened over here then? This is giving me some major anxiety right about now. But next time I'll probably be taking a look at the recently released remake because I've been so buzzing to play this ever since it was announced. And I'm definitely not trying to avoid Path of the Furon. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone.
Hey kids, thanks for watching. I apologise for the amount of toys on the kitchen floor. I genuinely thought I'd tidied up. Clearly shite at that. Anyway, don't forget to leave me a cheeky wee like and comment if you fancy it, and follow me on Twitter and the gram. Links down below. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.